You may have seen the recent controversy surrounding Rolling Stone magazine's co-founder Jann Wenner and the release of his new book titled The Masters. He made some stunning admissions to the New York Times about why he only included white guy rockers within the scope of this book. How deeply did Wenner step into the shit? Watch today as this white guy talks about this white guy. Hi everyone, I'm Paul Crayson, and you're watching Music Mentions. This channel is not one to shy away from controversies, and today we're going to tackle a big one that just exploded in the music world. Today I'm going to discuss the Jann Wenner diversity debacle, including who the fuck is Jann Wenner, what did he do, why does it matter, and what is my perspective on all of this hullabaloo. Jann Wenner is the 77-year-old co-founder of Rolling Stone magazine, arguably the most influential music publication of the last 50-plus years. He also helped co-found the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and several other publications. The influence Jann Wenner has had on popular music cannot be overstated. He helped many artists, critics, and writers reach a mass audience. Many credit him positively with really helping their careers as a result. Wenner was considered a gatekeeper of sorts when it came to music and music culture, especially in the late 60s and early to mid-70s. If Rolling Stone liked or disliked something, their readers would adjust their tastes accordingly. Except those early Led Zeppelin album reviews. Boy, did they miss the mark on those. Go take a look at those sometimes if you need a laugh. If it was in Rolling Stone, it was taken seriously by both music fans and movers and shakers in the music industry. However, Rolling Stone was late to the punk party in the latter part of the 70s, and its influence started to stutter and eventually fade into the safe corporate mediocrity where it currently bathes. But the impact it has had on music can still be felt today. Namely, Jann Wenner is still releasing books and is still a part of the public music discourse. On September 15th, 2023, New York Times released an interview with Jann Wenner about his new book, The Masters. The Masters was released on the 26th of September 2023. The book contains archival interviews with Bono, Bob Dylan, Jerry Garcia, John Lennon, Mick Jagger, Bruce Springsteen, and Pete Townsend. 7 uber-famous rock stars sharing 2 traits other than their stature as highly respected and highly regarded musicians. They're all white and they're all men. Now, on the face of it, this may not have been such a big issue, but it was Wenner's response to the interviewer's questions that ultimately got him into such hot water. Questions that he should have anticipated well before the interview, and that the editors and publishers would have warned him well in advance about. Why are there only white men included in your book? Why are there no great female artists or artists of color included? Wenner said that black and female artists couldn't articulate at the same level as the white male musicians in his book. He later clarified that The Masters was not meant to represent the whole of music and its diverse and important originators, but rather it meant to represent his career and body of work. But by then, the damage had already been done and the backlash was severe, including Living Color, who said, "The very idea of a book called The Masters, which blatantly omits the essential contributions of black, people of color, and women to rock and pop culture, speaks to a much larger and more systemic problem." He's also been removed from the board of directors of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which he helped to co-found back in 1983. Here's my take on all of this. As a college student back in the 80s, I would go to the 4th floor of the student library where they had the library stacks. They had these old binders of Rolling Stone magazines. I would pore over old issues from the 60s and 70s, reading the album reviews, the articles, the interviews, even looking at the ads. I was trying to glean any kind of knowledge I could about the artists and the albums, just the general period of rock music history. I also liked how anti-establishment and rebellious Rolling Stone was in those early years, giving the middle finger to the stiff, white-collared corporate types, politicians, and religious blue noses at the time. As a matter of fact, I was a subscriber to Rolling Stone back in college, and at some point I decided to cancel my subscription because it was very clear that they had actually become a part of the establishment that they had at one time criticized. I then read a big biography of Jann Wenner by Joe Hagan in 2017 called Sticky Fingers, The Life and Times of Jann Wenner in Rolling Stone magazine. It was a fascinating read, and I highly recommend that book if you're at all interested in the history of rock and roll as it pertains to Jann Wenner and Rolling Stone. However, I remember having a strong impression after reading that book about how Wenner was one cocky and self-centered son of a bitch, even if he was a genius of sorts. I didn't get the feeling that I would have liked to have worked with him, for him, or even hung out with him. The guy was a complete asshole. Well, that feeling that I had after reading that biography seems to be pretty much in alignment with what he said to the New York Times. I think he knew he'd get asked this question about diversity, and he answered it honestly. He's a 77-year-old, once relevant guy that just doesn't give a fuck anymore. He could have told the interviewer that he was aware of the lopsided nature of the book and that he was planning on doing another book with great female and artists of color at some future date. Or he could have just said he hadn't considered this omission at all, and no one at the publisher, Little Brown and Company, had even mentioned it to him, and he could have then just taken the opportunity to apologize profusely and say mea culpa. It would still not have been a good look, but he may have been able to save himself a little bit of respect at the end. But he didn't really offer a sincere apology, and I think in the end it just revealed his real character. I read the interview the morning it was published, and I remember rereading those particular sections, just trying to understand, did he really say what I think he said? Yeah, he did. I remember being a bit stunned and thinking to myself, well, this is not going to sit well with folks. In the interview, he even said the following: "The selection of 7 white guys was intuitive. It was what I was interested in. You know, just for public relations' sake, maybe I should have gone and found 1 black and 1 woman artist to include here that didn't measure up to the same historical standard, just to avert this kind of criticism, which, I get it. I had a chance to do that. Maybe I'm old-fashioned and I don't give a bleep or whatever." I think that last line pretty much nails it. He's old-fashioned and he just doesn't give a fuck. He's basically telling us that he didn't include any female or black artists because they didn't meet his personal standards. In other words, he's revealing to us that he is personally biased against black and female artists because they didn't meet his standard of articulation of a particular spirit or a particular attitude about rock and roll. And as we all know, articulation is fairly closely correlated to intelligence. It's not necessarily a synonym for intelligence, but it comes pretty damn close. Is Wenner a misogynist and a racist deep down inside? I can't really answer that question because I can't see into the man's heart. But I can say confidently that I feel the backlash was fully justified. A lot of progress has been made over the years concerning race and gender, but Wenner is not helping here. Look, most of the time, a scorpion is going to behave like a scorpion. It's in its nature. I just don't think we need this old rich white guy push us backwards into the 50s. Although he attempted to clarify his comments after the backlash had started, it really is a case of a little too little and a little too late. Will I buy this book? It's a hard question because I am interested in the content of the Masters. And God, even that title now is questionable, isn't it? I have an unquenchable thirst for any kind of books that may provide further insight into some of my favorite artists or music of a period. I'm a junkie that way. I think ultimately what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until a used copy hits the market and buy a used copy of the book. I certainly don't want to add any more dollars to Wenner's net worth, which is already ridiculous. We can only hope at this point that Wenner learned something from this entire experience. Or maybe it's time for him to retire on a private island somewhere where he's happy and he's away from us and we never hear from him again. I don't think music would suffer for this loss. He had a good run, but his time as a continuing relevant voice in music and music culture should probably come to an end. Now, I'm not particularly a big fan of cancellation by the media, but I think at this point it would be better both for him and for us if he would just disappear. Let me know what your thoughts are about all of this in the comments. I'm really interested in understanding what my audience's take is on this whole controversy. Are you outraged? Are you not surprised? Do you think that this is much ado about nothing? Let me know. Let's get a conversation going in the comments. Thanks again for watching me and my channel. Really appreciate it. If you like videos like this and you want to see more in the future, give me a like, hit the subscribe, hit the notifications. I'm Paul Crayson, and we'll see you next time.